Welcome back. I was about to say welcome to, but no. Welcome back to Let's Play Sayonara. Only the second record session, you know what? Where is it? Unplug the fan. Right, let me just, how do I go about this? Do that, and there. Just getting the damn thing out of the way because recording software just gets in the way of the screen. So it has been over half a month, I just realized. I mean, it could be longer than that, but assuming the previous record session, which was the first record session, I'd edited on the same day I recorded. That was the 21st of March. It's now the 6th of April, so that's quite a while back. But oh boy. It's just like, I don't know, man. It's just like I could go on a little ramble here, but it's just like it's been a bit chaotic in between that first record session and this one. It's like one thing that actually reminded me of this, because, you know, of the fact that the protagonist, you know, is in the predicament after I mean, to be fair, they had the horrifying car accident, but it seems the surgery might have been what caused the hallucination or whatever. But anyways, I was reminded of that a while back when my nephew actually got hit by a car. He's alright. It wasn't like any major injuries or anything, but you know, when I first heard about it, that was all I heard is like, he's been hit by a car. It's like, and? Well, we got no other information. It's like, are you kidding me? That was horrible, man. Not knowing. And on top of that, just the other day, oldest cat died. He was at least 20 years old, so he lived a long ass life for a cat, or a pet in general, really. Don't think families ever owned a pet that has lived that long. That's just insane. But anyways, let's go into the insanity that is this story. Yeah, it was the 21st. Can't believe this has like 200s, does it? Was it 200s? Okay, 120. That's still a lot of save points. And a comment on the previous part. I haven't checked since uploading this, so maybe it's got more than one comment now. I have no idea. Mentioning that by short, you know, the length of this, they meant like, you know, about 16 hours, give or take. I don't know if that takes into account my habit of rambling. That would make it drag longer. But if that's the case, if all 3 endings can be obtained in 16 hours, that's quite... I mean, to be fair, I ramble a lot. But like, you know what, actually, let me just check. Higurashi, what was my time on that? 36 hours. So, that's how long that Let's Play was, judging by the fact that I had playtime for its 36 hours. So that is like more than double that length. Let's go for the shortest, Imatsubushi. Imatsubushi was the shortest one, 14 hours, so that kind of makes sense. Last played March 24th, 2018. Man, that Higurashi Let's Play as a whole went on for a long time, didn't it? Anyways. Wait. Locked? What the hell does that even mean? Clicked on the wrong thing. Nearly 5 minutes in, we're finally getting to the plot again. When she arrives at the Sagisaka house, Umi first takes a deep breath to calm herself. Also, I noticed in the first record session, don't know if it's the mic, don't know what it is, but the audio felt weird. By felt, I mean sounded weird. You can't feel audio. Well, technically you could feel audio if someone's like, you know, puts the acoustic guitar right up to your ear, strums the guitar. You're gonna feel that vibration, but you get the idea. It like had a kind of weird echo to it. I don't know why. I haven't really used this microphone, you know, I think since the end of the Higurashi Let's Play last year, so that was like over half a year ago. That's just like a long time. And it hasn't been, you know, kept in good condition. Her anger does not vanish entirely, of course, but at least now she can hear herself think. Is the text different because we'd already read this previously? Might be. Yeah. While waiting for a response from the intercom, she looks over the patch of yard that she can see from outside the gates. Even Omi isn't normally one to complain about other people's housekeeping, but this is going too far. The grass is growing wild, and there are piles of dead leaves scattered everywhere. Doesn't just look unattended, it looks like an uninhabited ruin. Well, to be fair, you know, that long grass would just look like loads of giant fleshy blobs to him. Not that she'd know that, of course. Still light out, but every window has its storm shutters tightly sealed. Omi guesses that they've been closed since morning. You know, it really is kind of suspicious to, like, anyone else passing by, wouldn't it? It's just like, because he's like painted over the windows and all that, and just like, what's going on, man? What kind of life is Fuminori leading? Even if he's living alone, he can't neglect his housework forever. And is it just her imagination, or does something stink like rotten meat? But everything looks like rotten meat to him, and also, can you hear my freaking fan? Jesus Christ, man. Is that just steam? Not steam as in, you get that, like, you know, having this up here. It's just running it, just causing it like that. Or maybe it's because I've got an internet browser open, you know what? Just gonna close the internet browser. Maybe that'll resolve the issue, because it does, you know, take up a lot of resources. Is it just her imagination, or does something say, yeah, that it shouldn't be coming from the yard? Couldn't be, could it? There's still no response, so she presses the buzzer a second time, and a third and fourth. Finally, after this has gone on for over 10 minutes, it's almost the length of this video so far. Well, record session. Well, video as well, I suppose. Omi loses her patience and opens the cover of the intercom. As she expected, the power has been disconnected. Perhaps Fuminori has a good reason for shutting out the world, but Omi can only see it as a lack of respect for others. Her anger rekindled, she pushes the gate open and stomps through the yard to the front door. Given the state of his intercom, she doubts that Fuminori will respond to a knock. So Omi decides to just open the door and go in shouting, and if the door is locked, she'll just have to... I don't know, man, I mean... I have a bad feeling about this, to be honest. Surprisingly, the doorknob turns easily in her hand, and the enraged Omi finds herself throwing the door open wider than she intended. Her nostrils are instantly assaulted by a choking stench.
Nani?
As Omi stands petrified on the threshold, the cowbell hanging on the inside of the door chimes loudly a moment later. I mean, she didn't say, "What is that smell?" She was just like, "What?" Omi can't believe her ears. The voice she just heard could not have been human, yet its intonations were too complex for any animal she can imagine.
誰かいるの?
She calls out to the end of the hallway from which the voice came. There's no response. Instead, she hears the sound of something soft and wet flopping its way deeper into the house. Well, this is interesting. Finding it difficult to place a meaningful image of the voice she just heard, Omi stares blankly at the empty vestibule, whatever. There's nothing there, not even Fuminori's shoes, which can only mean that he's still outside somewhere, wearing them. The house should be empty. But then, what was that voice just now? Her anger has vanished as if it were never there. Nevertheless, Omi sets foot into the hallway, leaving the door open so that the cowbell won't ring. Doesn't sound like the best idea after hearing that, does it? The floor creaks, setting her nerves on edge. Omi isn't sure why she's acting like a burglar, but something tells her to make as little noise as possible. The potency of the stink inside the house makes the whiff she caught outside pale in comparison. It's sickening, like rotten fish guts. Has food been left to spoil in the kitchen? She hears a bubbling sound up ahead. Stepping gingerly on the creaking elbows, Omi makes her way to the end of the hallway. She finds a room to both sides of her, one lit, the other dark, and chose to look into the lit room. It's the kitchen, lit by what must be the only window in the house, not covered by a storm shutter. You know what? These backgrounds make me think this could, like, work as, like, can you imagine something like this as a point-and-click game? Just like, I don't know, I've never played them, but like, you know, old Super Nintendo, or was it NES? It might be NES games, like Shadowgate and stuff like that, where it's like, you make a wrong decision, game over, you know? You just gotta do everything perfectly. It could totally work here. You probably have a variety of ways of getting screwed over here, I don't know. You didn't live by the only window in the house and not covered by a storm shutter. The sound she heard was the pot boiling on the stove, and on the chopping board next to it laid to lie a butcher's knife and some half-diced carrots. Every normal household scene with the light of the setting sun making everything the color of decomposing fruit. Something is wrong. Who's cooking here? Where did they go?
誰かいないんですか?
Omi calls, regretting it immediately as she realizes that her voice is shaking. As her words echo vainly through the silent house, she begins to feel foolish and defenseless. Suddenly she feels something cold sweeping through her pantyhose. She timidly reaches down to touch her feet. Her fingertips come away covered with a vicious olive-green slime, like the filthy water from a tank long clogged with algae and dead fish. The whole floor is covered with it. Must be the source of the stench. Omi now wishes that she had worn her shoes inside. Manners be damned. She's probably thinking she shouldn't have walked in to begin with. When she looks back ruefully the way she came, she realizes that her current position is not visible from the entrance. This kitchen must be where that strange voice came from. The next room is probably the den, as she expected from the closed storm shutters. It's pitch black inside. Omi wants nothing more than to flee this house, but that would mean turning her back to the darkness, and that she simply cannot bring herself to do. Moved by some irrational compulsion, Omi sets foot into the den. It is too dark to see anything, and the stink is far worse than before. She slides her hand along the wall, feeling for the light switch. Finding it much sooner than she expected, she flips it on like it's her last hope. Well, you got some artsy decor going on here. I mean, I get to experiment with a painting, but when we saw it from his perspective, it was just two different colors. That's a lot more color. The colors, so many colors. I don't know what, well, I know why it bugs me when I see colors spelled the American way. Because, you know, the British way has the U in there. Sure, the U doesn't make sense, but it bugs me when it's not there because I'm so used to it. The purple of entrails, the brown of rotten meat, the crimson of fresh blood, the yellow of fat. These colors and more that cannot be described cover every inch of the room in maddening array. The colors say all that needs to be said about the painter's hatred, malice, and insanity. Omi's legs give out from the shock, send her to the floor. Slime immediately soaks through her jeans, its gold tendrils creeping up her legs, crotch, and her neck. Her hand flies to her neck where it is greeted by another drop of chilly slime. Above her, something is dripping down on her head. Making perhaps the worst decision of her life, Omi looks up. The predator clinging to the ceiling, poised to leap upon its prey. She sees it in every detail. Her mouth and nose are sealed before she can scream, and her belly is torn open as something enters to feast on her innards. But by the time she feels any of this, Omi has already gone mad. Well, that sucks. Just gets killed off just like how we barely even knew her. I bit the bullet and tried to take the train, but the rush hour crowds were so bad I had to get off halfway and walk. I'm running pretty late, is Saya worried. Hope she's not mad. Well, judging from that scene, we can probably put two and two together. It's like, I know the plot twist and all that, but it's kind of feeling like it's established in there early on here. So it doesn't feel like it makes much of a... Well, I know how it ends as well, so that's a point, but still. At least one of the things I, knew in advance didn't really take long to get to. When I entered the yard, I realized that the front door has been left wide open. Light from the living room is seeping out into the hallway, and I hear what sounds like someone smacking their lips. There's also a tantalizing fragrance in the air. Is it Saya? I consider calling out to her, but decide to enter in silence instead. Something smells strange, though not unpleasant. The aroma is quite soothing, in fact. It reminds me of Saya's hair. At first, I am surprised by what I see in the living room. The floor is covered with what looks to be some kind of grass, probably source of the herb-like smell. There are fruits or vegetable-like bowls of varying size scattered everywhere. Oh.
Saya.
Saya turns around, her eyes wide with surprise. She then looks away sheepishly like a child caught at some prank.
何を食べてるんだい？
これはその
She stammers so flustered that I suddenly feel bad for sneaking up on her. Remembering that she has never eaten in front of me before, I realize that she must be quite embarrassed.
一ついいかな？
What? I scoop up the closest fruit thing and pop it into my mouth, ignoring Saya's attempts to wave me off. Are you... There's a strange texture, soft and pliable, like a peach or a pear. When I bite into it, my back teeth, a succulent juice fills my mouth. Combined with a sharp, strong fragrance, it's unlike anything I've ever tasted.
何か味付けとか調理してあるのかこれ？
Oh, you know, just your friends.
調理ってほどのことはさばいてからちょっと溶かして食べやすくしただけでほとんど生なんだけど
I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, his story was dark right from the get-go, but it just gets darker. Jesus Christ. I pick up a different lump. This one consists of free flesh around a hard core. Tearing a chunk off in my mouth, I find that it has a similar taste to the last one.
ねえ大丈夫？それって
僕でも食べられる味だ。っていうよりうまいよこれ。
I'm starting to question because, like, I assume the surgery at this point is what caused him to, have this weird perception. And I wonder if that Ogai guy had anything to do with it. Because if, like, he's her father, at least claims that's her father, then there must be some shady shit of some sort there. I don't know.
そうなの？
First, I looks dumbstruck, but then she bursts out laughing.
そうなんだ。ふみのりもこういうのが好きだったんだ。なんだ、あれこれ工夫して頑張ってた私がバカみたい。
How strange. He perceives the world around him as all gore and entrails, but he actually likes the taste of them. Doesn't even realize what he's eating. Jesus Christ.
さやっていつもこういうものを食べてたのか？
こんな大物は久しぶりだけどね。近所の公園とかで取ってこれるやつ。
There's an impressive nature reserve not too far from here. I've heard about fruits like these growing now, but well, of course they only look like fruits to me. They're really something else. Like, Jesus Christ, I get that, Sai's the only one he can see as normal, even though, from Omi's perspective, he can clearly tell that, how he's perceiving everything else is what Saya is probably like. But he's perceiving her as, a normal girl. And he's, not questioning it at all, because, there'd be plenty of reason to question it all. But he's not going to question it because she's the only normal person in his life at the moment. Although he sees it that way, that's not really the case, is it?
ごめんね。一番美味しいところはさっきさやが全部食べちゃった。
いいよ、また今度で。でもこれで明日から一緒に食事ができるね。
Jesus Christ. Saya seems really happy. I'm happy too, of course. Eating with someone is much more fun than eating alone, and it makes the food taste better too. Oh, Jesus Christ. I didn't... that's the thing, right? I knew the plot twist of, who Saya is, kind of. And I know how the story ultimately ends. But everything in between, I have no idea. I was not anticipating this.
まだまだいっぱいあるし、食べきれない分は冷やせば 2,3 日は大丈夫だよ。ちょっと味は落ちるんだけどね。
Yeah, I can't remember if the Steam, listing of its various type of things listed, or cannibalism as well is in there. I remember back when I first played Katagra, or rather Red, I suppose, visual novel. And like in the intro, like there's like kind of reminiscent about the war and how like there was some point where you had to resort to a bit of cannibalism. And I remember my reaction was I just kind of flinched. I was like, oh, yeah.
じゃあ早めに片付けておこうか。
I mean, seriously. They've already killed off one of the characters. She didn't really get much screen time, did she? I have a feeling these characters are just going to die, aren't they? In horrific ways, and not really get much time to develop, which is kind of a shame if you ask me. Sealed the small fruits in Tupperware and the large ones in pots and bowls, and I store the remaining food in a refrigerator. Thinking of tomorrow's dinner fills me with anticipation. I feel that little by little I'm starting to regain the joy of living. Saya will guide me. With her I can live on. I wonder if he ever were to learn what the hell he just ate, if he would even, be fazed by it. Be like, well, it tastes good, I suppose. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? True Scary Stories, Hospital Edition. What's this? Chapter 4, The Monster in the Hospital. A medical student relates his shocking experiences. Will you believe him or not? That also brings into question, Saya would scare the mental patients. I mean, presumably she, didn't eat any of them. Or maybe she did. Because, that would raise a lot of suspicions then. But, could easily, scare the shit out of them and get away with it, because then, like, when they, like, tell people about it, they'd be like, nah, that's just hallucinations, man. You just imagined it. Will you believe him or not? Strange things started happening at the hospital around the end of last spring. Began with patients waking up in the middle of the night, screaming. They all spoke of terrifying nightmares, and many of them had to be sedated. Some patients even transferred to other hospitals because of it. The weird thing was that they'd all had the exact same dream. Dream about some horribly disgusting monster staring down at them from their bedside. But the really strange stuff started happening after that. There used to be a lot of stray cats around campus looking for scraps from the students. Okay, this is what she must have been, feeding on at the time. One day the cats suddenly disappeared, and it wasn't that they'd stopped coming, it was more like they'd vanished from the area entirely. And then people stopped walking their dogs around. On the rumors, the dogs were refusing to go anywhere near the school. Eventually things started going missing in the hospital. Organs, to be precise. Transplant organs kept disappearing from storage. People come close to losing their jobs over it. And it wasn't just 2 or 3 times that it happened. They tried to keep it from the students, but we heard it was a lot worse than that. People started saying that there was something living in the hospital. Janitors would find strange messes that could only be made in the middle of the night. Traces of something that had crawled down the hallway, or weird stains caused by something dripping through the seep. The late shift nurses talked about hearing strange noises on the same nights that patients woke screaming. There's one last story. One you can never mention inside the hospital. One day the department went crazy. They said that a newborn had disappeared in the night. Oh, Jesus Christ, we get even darker than it already is. That were true, the police would have come and it would have been all over the news, but they say the big shots managed to make it all go away. It's a rumor, of course. These strange incidents suddenly stopped towards the end of summer. Now there are almost no patients complaining of nightmares, and the cats have started coming back to campus. But still, what happened to the hospital that summer? Even now, just thinking about it gives me the creeps. I guess that's kind of goes in line with, that's when she left to live with Fuminori, so of course everything went back to normal after that.
ダメだ。
And they're just reusing the same seat and CG here. This is the third day in a row that they haven't been able to get in touch with Omi. Yeah, she got killed off pretty quickly. She kind of got the shit end of the stick. I mean, honestly, I expect both of these characters also die because, I mean, we're talking Lovecraftian horror here. Hope is not really, on the menu of survival. There's no sign that she returned to her apartment, and even her family doesn't know anything. Parents have already filed a missing persons report.
まあ、あいつのことだからな。何事もなかったみたいに、ひょっこり顔出しそうな気もするんだが。
だといいけど。
Yo replies with a gloomy expression. She's worried about Omi, of course. The incident with Fuminori 3 days ago must still be weighing on her as well. Yeah, just don't go to his house, man. Bad idea. Yo hasn't seen Fuminori since then, and Fuminori hasn't made any effort to approach her or Koji. 4 people used to meet in this cafeteria between classes, but now there are only 2.
ねえ、トノくん、もう一度考えてみようよ。どこかオミちゃんの行きそうな場所に心当たり。
Don't go there, man.
いや、一通りは確かめたしな。
Koji answers evasively. It's a lie, of course. Koji knows where Omi planned to go that evening, but he doesn't want to bring Fuminori up in front of Yo. The awkward silence is mercifully broken by the bell, signaling the start of the next period.
じゃあ、俺行くわ。
Unless Koji is mistaken, Yo is supposed to have class next period too, but she just sits there, staring off into space. After, let's playing Higurashi over the past few years, I'm just making this comparison here. Higurashi starts off relatively innocent. It kind of has a slow build, at least in the first few arcs. Once it's a bit more established, it kind of doesn't take nearly as long to get into that point. Well, it still does, kind of. There's a build to it. In this, it's straight off the bat. It's just look at this guy. His perception of the world is completely fucked. And then, in 4 parts of this Let's Play, character gets brutally killed, plot twists, Saya is not who she appears to be. And it's well, that escalated quickly. It's couldn't the pace have been a little more, slower? We hardly got to really see Omi as a character, It kind of feels a bit anticlimactic when a character just gets killed off with not much development. It just seemed to happen a bit too quick. But then again, this is apparently kind of short novel, I suppose. And you gotta have I don't know, it feels like that plot twist should have been, come into play a little later on, Add some tension. It's could it be or could it not be? Keeps you guessing, but not for me because I already knew the plot twist, but you get the idea. So that it takes a while, and then when the plot twist actually happens, you're dun, holy shit. Feels like it could have built up to that a bit longer than they actually did. Anyways, unable to come up with anything to say, he leaves the cafeteria reluctantly. You know what, how does this even have 3 endings? We haven't had a single choice so far. This is feeling like Higurashi, where it's just a novel but doesn't have choices. But if it's got 3 endings, there's gotta be some choices there at some point. Unable to come up with anything to say, he leaves the cafeteria reluctantly. Both Omi's disappearance and Yo's depression worry Koji, and both problems lead back to the exact same place.
Fuminori wa ittai?
When Omi went missing, the first thing he did was question Fuminori. After all, the last time he'd seen her was just before she stormed off to give Fuminori a piece of her mind. And he got a piece of her, alright. A couple of pieces. I remember when I was editing the first record session, I was had food and I was you know what, I'll edit this later. this record session is even worse. Fuminori responded with unequivocal denial and acted like he hadn't the slightest idea why Omi would have gone to see him. Perhaps that was only natural, as he was unaware that Omi and Koji had witnessed him reduce Yo to tears. Did Omi even make it to Fuminori's house? She had been riding a wave of emotion when she'd left. Might have calmed down and changed her mind halfway there. If only she had. Or perhaps she ran into trouble on the way, or more than you could possibly imagine. Koji concluded, or more accurately convinced himself, that one of these possibilities was the truth, subconsciously denying the one remaining possibility, that Fuminori was lying, that he had met Omi and was involved with her disappearance. Well, he wasn't. Well, technically, in a way, he is, but not really, because it was Saya that killed her, and then, ate her, and then Fuminori came home, didn't realize what this, all this green shit is, and he's like, tastes nice, not realizing that was her. When questioned by the police, Koji told the truth about Omi's destination only up to the train station, maintaining that he had no idea where she'd planned to go after that. He wanted to cooperate with the search, of course, but Omi shouldn't have made it to Fuminori's house. Fuminori said so himself, didn't he? In that case, he told the police everything they needed to know. I wonder what would happen if the police went to Fuminori's house. I mean, if Fuminori wasn't there, much like when Omi was there, would they? Well, they wouldn't have, they wouldn't be able to just barge in. Still, it'd be interesting. Not wanting to get the still fragile Fuminori involved, he forced himself to accept his flimsy logic. The conflict was built up inside of him without his notice, leaving unanswered suspicion to fester in his mind. Koji is deep in thought, paying no attention to his surroundings. Perhaps that is what allows him to catch sight of his friends back through the crowd of milling students. Close-up of his face for once. Well?
Fuminori?
At first, Koji assumes that he's headed to the lecture hall, but it soon appears that he is instead going home. Strange, medical students have required courses in the afternoon. Though he is initially surprised, Koji's hesitation lasts for only a second. He follows his friend, taking care to stay far enough behind that he won't be noticed. Oh man, is he gonna follow him home as well?